What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Cartoon Season. I'm Tyler, and this is all about animation as always. Today we got a good one. We got How to Train Your Dragon. Sorry, the thing is weird. How to Train Your Dragon, the first movie by DreamWorks, right? This is a movie that kind of like flourished, I guess. I don't know. It's always interesting to see, like, going back and seeing which movies spawned, like, franchises. Because this one has this has 4 movies, I believe. I think it has 4 movies, and then there's also like a Netflix show, and then I think isn't there like a new? It's either a new movie or a new show that's coming out with like. It looks it's basically Hiccup and Toothless, but like Hiccup, this version of Hiccup has like blonde hair, I think, and then like Toothless is like mostly white. They just like what's the it's like in a video game you just like swap skins. That's pretty much what it looks like. But anyway, yeah, it's always interesting to see which movies like start franchises. Like, you go like to Shrek, or like Despicable Me, This is one that I didn't expect, but looking back on it, it's a pretty good movie. It has some good characters, lots of good moments. But today, we're gonna talk about a couple different things. It's gonna be Hiccup and Toothless bonding, and then we also got Hiccup and his dad. Like that relationship kind of flips, and it's gonna see that turn. I think it kind of turns, really on each act. I think the second act, it kind of starts to shift, and then the third act, it completely flips. But we're going to talk about that, of course. Before we do, make sure to go to the Tiger T YouTube channel, and then also many other podcast services. You can get more episodes like this. And then also we got a Tiger T Twitter and a Tyler Twitter, if that's your thing. So we can get into the movie itself. We're gonna start with Hiccup and Toothless. They're bonding. So this all starts out with Hiccup actually finally killing, quote unquote, killing a dragon. That's a huge thing for him, because that's this whole world, right? You have to kill dragons. That's what Vikings do. And he's trying to prove to his father, right? He's trying to prove that he is a Viking. This is in his blood. And he finally does it. So that's a huge moment for him, a huge win. But we find out that he's not dead, and now the dragon goes on the offensive, but doesn't actually kill him, which is crazy, because like that right there, like at that moment in the movie, I think it's only like, I don't know, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the movie, maybe, and at that point we already know the dynamic between Vikings and dragons. We already know that Vikings kill dragons, dragons kill Vikings. Dragons just come in every so often and wreak havoc, and so the dragons have to protect their territory. We don't really see that Vikings necessarily go after dragons, like they don't really search for them. Until a little later on, when we realize there's a dragon nest, and we're like, okay, so we're gonna go towards that to help stop this as a whole, but it's more so on the Viking side of self-defense. That's at least how they frame it, especially in the first act. So it's very weird for us to have all that lore and us just kind of know that dynamic so early on, like pretty much instantly as soon as we start the movie, and then we immediately see a scene where a dragon does not kill a human, does not kill a Viking. And so that's very strange for us, and that pretty much springboards us to the rest of the movie. On how this is gonna go, even though we don't really know that. I guess on outside looking in, we know there's trailers for the movie, and we've seen the trailers, so we know they're probably friends. But still, it's very cool to see them immediately like set up lore they don't even have to tell us about, and then for us to be like, but there's this one exception though. So it's very weird for the dragon to not kill him, just like show him mercy, And so that, again, builds into this nice little relationship between dragon and Viking, where with patience, he starts to build trust with Toothless. Um, obviously Dragon has no reason to trust him. Dragon has probably seen time and time again his fellow dragon brethren be shot out of the sky, be murdered, and now he also knows that he has a messed up wing, or like a little like tail flap, because of a Viking. So he has more than enough evidence to never trust humans ever. And you can just tell that Hiccup is different. Hiccup isn't going there immediately trying to kill this dragon. He's going there, he's with food, he's just trying to observe. And I think Toothless can see that, where he still doesn't obviously trust him in the beginning, but he doesn't have any reason to really kill him on the spot, because Hiccup didn't like corner him in like this little bowl canyon to then murder him, because if it's like the thing where it's like, if he would have killed me, he would have done it already. So why isn't he? So that's why there's a little bit of probably what's the word? Hesitancy. I think that's the word. With Toothless wanting to just murder, and it wouldn't even murder. It would be self-defense. I mean, technically Hiccup injured him. But it's nice to see a dragon, again, from a Viking's perspective, dragons are just these demon monsters, but this dragon in particular, and then obviously with this relationship growing, it shows that is not the case, at least not always the case. And so, again, we learn more that, like, Hiccup is kind of more of a scientist than he is a Viking. You can tell he never really wanted to kill a dragon. Like, from him on the inside, he only ever wanted to kill one because that's what Vikings do, and his dad is kind of the leader of this Viking village. So of course he has, he's the son. He has to, is what he gotta do. But then as it goes on, you realize he never really wanted to do that. He didn't really want to do it. He just felt like he had to do it to, to prove to other people that this is who he is, and that he is one of them, and not to be an outcast for his entire life. But now that he has his relationship with this other dragon, why would he do that? Like, he's much more of a scientist. Like, for him to read all these books and him to question them, I think that's one thing that is always supposed to be present in science, is you're always questioning things. Obviously as time goes on, there's some things you're just supposed to take as fact, but that is literally what science is. It is asking questions. So for Hiccup to read the big dragon book and be like, this doesn't seem right, and then for him to like do all this stuff with Toothless and like learn like how to make Toothless happy, and like how to basically read his emotions, and how that carries over to all dragons. How there's certain things that dragons don't like, certain things they do like, certain behavioral patterns. It is interesting that like Hiccup is the first, seemingly first Viking to ever really study dragons, rather than, because that dragon book was mostly, if not completely, reactionary. It was, okay, here's the attacks that dragons have. This one can spit fire, this one, like, has a very powerful jaw or whatever. It's just like, this isn't a book on dragons. This is a book on, like, how to defend and attack dragons. It's very, very different. Two very different concepts. And so that's why Hiccup actually makes a book on dragons. It's actually like, when you study an animal, you don't just think of how it can kill you, how you can kill it. There's many more aspects to every living creature than just those two. And that's pretty much what Hiccup does throughout the entirety of the film. And then just with him and Toothless specifically, like, he rebuilds Toothless's tail. He's not only a scientist from the, like, animal studying perspective, but he is also a craftsman. We learned that in the very first scene of the film, where he is like the apprentice of the one guy. I don't remember his name, but he's like his apprentice, so he can build stuff as well. And that's also a really cool aspect of the character. Where he is kind of all about creation, whether it comes to physical creation or, creating these bonds. And so he helps fix Toothless's tail so they can ride. Again, that's another, extra level of trust, that has never been formed before. I mean, again, seemingly, he is the first Viking to ever ride a dragon. That's not something that's ever been thought of before, because they would always look at dragons as, again, like heartless, monsters, basically. So for him to have this whole new perspective on it, and him to ride a dragon, him to be allies with one, like that can literally, and spoilers, if you watch the end of the film, it is what happens. It literally changes the relationship between these two species forever. He's also the first dragon, or the first Viking to ever find the dragon's nest. For generations, you assume, and I think they said this, but I don't quite remember the line. For generations, his people have been searching for this nest to take out these dragons once and for all. I mean, that's like his dad's main goal in life. If he can do that, he can die happy. And it takes Hiccup, I don't know, a few weeks, few months to form this bond with Toothless, and then go find the dragon's nest. It's just different, and then together they're able to defeat the dragon queen, right? With the big dragon thing that was guarding the nest, basically. None of this would have been possible without Hiccup and Toothless being the way that they are. Because again, I mean, I feel like we give a lot of credit to Hiccup, but Toothless is the same way. Like, I'm not sure that other dragons, every dragon would be so quick to just kind of see it out, to kind of feel it out, to be like, okay, maybe I'll trust this human for a bit and see what happens. Obviously the situation helped a lot. Toothless wasn't really in a position to like take out or to remove this opportunity, because again, he couldn't fly, and like that part of him wasn't growing back. We're assuming he's not like a lizard where that fleshy part of his tail will grow back. Like, he could be stuck there. He probably would have died in this canyon. There's only so many fish, so it really was like this grand change, this grand evolution, just built off of this small opportunity. And I'm very excited to see, obviously, like I said, this is a franchise at this point, so I'm excited to see where this goes in the second film, where their relationship forms, or not forms, but grows stronger, and we do see, like I said, dragons are a thing now, so I'm excited to see where, like, them setting the example for this new relationship, this new dynamic between Vikings and dragons. But then we have the other thing, more of the emotional topic I wanted to bring up, which was Hiccup and his dad's relationship flips. So in the beginning, he's always trying to make his dad proud, and prove that he's a Viking, because his dad is the leader, and it seems like he's the baddest Viking around. He's the most courageous. He's the one, I think, that, he has the most dragon kills, I believe. And, he's also the leader, so these are all things that he's supposed to do. These are all traits that a Viking is supposed to have, especially a Viking leader. But that's, that shows that there's a lot of pressure, though, because Hiccup isn't really any of that. I feel like throughout the film, he proves that he is courageous, but he's not a killer. He just isn't. He's not really a fighter. As we see, like I said earlier, he's more of a scientist. Like, he would much rather think things through and try to have some sort of solution on that front, rather than just taking a couple weapons and just cutting his way through everything. Whereas Dad would love to do that, because his dad has that ability. But Hiccup wants to kind of change things. He feels like there's a better way to do things. Tradition is nice, but sometimes you have to switch it up. So because he is always trying to do this whole Viking thing, he always messes things up, and he feels out of place because of it. He's never killed a dragon. He's never really been any use to the aid of killing dragons or stopping a dragon swarm, and he always has these schemes. Not really schemes, but he always has these plans, right, of like how he's gonna take out the dragon this time, and he has these contraptions and all that. But again, that's not really how Vikings work. Vikings have their hand-to-hand combat, and they also have, that's pretty much it, right? It's usually just hand-to-hand combat. I mean, like, he's the one that decided to build this like trebuchet, and it eventually worked, but no one in the town wanted anything like that, because they're like, this isn't, no, we take a sword, we take a shield, and we take these dragons out. Again, it's another one of those tales of tradition and their old ways of thinking. Recently I covered Hotel Transylvania. I don't know if you guys listened to that episode, but a big part of that was me talking about Dracula's old way of thinking and how it really was the backbone to the entire plot of the film, and how things had to change, because things do change, and when the world changes around you, I think you have to reassess your own outlook on it. And it might, your outlook still may be the same, but at the very least, I feel like you have to step outside yourself sometimes and see if your opinion on everything is still exactly the same as it was before. And going back to this film, I feel like that's the same way, where that's kind of what Hiccup does. Again, it's all opportunity. It's all because he was able to get Toothless, and have the opportunity to study him and like be close with him and see that he's not just a monster. He's not just a murdering machine. He's a creature. Same way humans are creatures. But because of all this, it was kind of the turn that I was talking about at the end of the first act, going to the second act, which was his dad forcing him to go into training, which is funny because Hiccup wanted to go into training before this. But since he's been hanging out with Toothless a little bit here and there, he doesn't really think he can kill a dragon. Especially with his first encounter. He should have killed Toothless. On paper, he should have killed Toothless, but he couldn't. He didn't. So now his dad is like, oh yeah, training, here we go. We're going to do it. I'm leaving for a little bit. We'll put you into training. You come back, it's going to be great. He doesn't want to do it, but his dad forces him. Because, again, this also very much sets up the dynamic between him and his dad, which is, it's always one-sided. His dad has like quote unquote conversations with him, but it's only one way. It's always him kind of telling him what to do in a way that sounds like they're discussing it, but it's not ever actually a discussion. It's always just like his dad is like, all right, cool, sounds good, and Hiccup is like, no, I didn't, like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. And so, I mean, it kind of works out the way he wants it to, at least initially, taken at face value, where he does come back home and he's finally proud of his son who can fight dragons now. And that's a really sad moment for us because, I mean, one, we know that's not true. We know that Hiccup has not been fighting dragons, and he will probably never kill a dragon ever. But then it's also tough because his dad is so proud of him, and like, we don't really see his dad as a bad person, so like, we want him to be happy. We want Hiccup to be happy as well, but we know that it's false, and we do have slight resentment against the father because he never showed interest in anything Hiccup ever wanted to do until now, because that's all his dad is he's a Viking who kills dragons. And so when his son wants to do something different, or just has other interests, you know what I mean, that overpower his own, he just can't bond with him. And that's tough because it is who he is, so it's tough for him to change and be someone who he isn't. But like, it is still his son, and I feel like you should at least try to meet him halfway. You know, I think there's certain things that he'll never quite understand. I mean, by the end of this film, I feel like it's going to get a lot easier, hopefully through the rest of the movies, but I feel like there's also some things that he is your son and you are the leader, and for you to question his every thought and motive, I feel like that's wrong. You know, the fact that we have proof here that he's tried to discuss things with you and you just don't listen. It's like, see, but I tried to tell you. I've tried to tell you this. I've not only given you hints, I've basically told you up front of this, and this, and this. And his dad still flips out on him. So, you know, but again, it's that particular scene where he wants to talk to him is extra tough, because he also gives Hiccup a helmet, which was part of Hiccup's mother's old armor. You know, so it's tough because Hiccup can't really tell him the truth, because there's such an emotional moment, and like he finally feels like he's able to talk with his father. You know, and then we move further on, like I was saying, and Hiccup now feels super weird because he doesn't ever want to kill a dragon. You know, so it's like he's kind of formed this like false bond with his father, but he can't bring himself to tell him the truth because there's finally this open line of communication. It finally feels like his father loves him to the extent in which he feels like he should. And how can he, how can he possibly tell the truth to break that bond back down to what it was, or even worse than what it was? But then also how, he still loves his father, so how can he do that to his father? He knows that if he tells him, it's going to break his heart. You know, and also he's probably going to be upset with him. There's a lot of negative reasons why, you know, or just a lot of negative outcomes from telling the truth. Even though, of course, by the end, and this is a movie, so we've seen similar things to this before in other movies, we know that the best thing to do is to rip off the Band-Aid. You just gotta tell him, you know, because later on, we see why not doing so makes everything worse. Because now he is the winner of training, basically. And when you win training, you have to kill a dragon. Or not you have to, you get to, because Vikings love killing dragons, right? But he can't. You know, he can't do it, and this is where everything implodes, and his dad kind of figures some stuff out, and we see Toothless come to the rescue, I think, right? And then he basically captures Toothless, and he gets out of Hiccup, or that was a little later on. It was somewhere around there, but he also gets out of Hiccup. That Hiccup found the nest and didn't tell him. So everything implodes. Like I said about 60 seconds ago, he didn't want to tell him because he felt like if he told him everything wouldn't go back to how it was. It would be worse than how it was. And 60 seconds later, here we are, where everything is much worse than it was. So really, should have just told him, you know. But yeah, and now the dad is basically using Toothless to get to the dragon's nest, and it's terrible. You know, that really sucks, because throughout the whole film, it was nice to see bonds. It was nice to see dragons treated fairly. And now we're right back to them. Now, not only are we killing them, but now we're using them as like a slave, basically. Like, you are going to bring me to your nest so I can kill all of your kind. Just commit genocide. And that's awful. You know, definitely in that moment, we hate the dad. You know, I do think we see a little bit of why he's doing it. You know, because again, if you just look at what has happened, you can't argue with the facts. The facts that dragons do come in and they do take things, they do steal their livestock and destroy stuff. So I mean, it's tough to argue with that, but still, I mean, with us seeing how Hiccup has treated dragons, we, as the viewer, we feel like we can come to an agreement of sorts, and we can make it so that doesn't happen anymore. But the dad is too stubborn, and just it's been ingrained in him his whole life that he's like, opportunity to take the nest, here we go, let's do it. But I already kind of talked about, that he's able to kill the queen and all that. Hiccup does come to the rescue, and the dad finally understands. I think that is the closing moment of this whole thing, where he finally accepts. He finally sees that Hiccup knew what he was talking about. He has these bonds. He can see that even in a short time now, the friends are riding dragons. The friends trust him. We see some leadership qualities in him, something that the dad didn't think he had. So I think all that swirls together in a moment of, I don't quite agree with everything you're doing. I still don't understand it, but I'm going to trust you because you're my son, and I see that you are leading some other people. You have the best chance of winning this. It definitely feel, my eyes are open, and I feel like you know what you're talking about. The way I've done it has failed, and you seem to have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence. You have a lot of confidence in what's going on. And so he gives his son the reins, and his son succeeds. And then we have the end of the movie where, again, dragons, we're all living in harmony, apparently. But yeah, I think that whole arc with the relationship with the dad is all really nice, because it is kind of a roller coaster a little bit. And there's some tough moments, but it ends the way we'd want it to end, where the dad trusts the son and accepts this new way of thinking. At least he's starting to, Vikings are very stubborn. So the fact that Hiccup was even able to do that is miraculous. But that is the end. That's kind of the both things I want to talk about. Is, I loved that arc between the Hiccup and the dad, and then I also really liked Hiccup and Toothless's bonding. Them two coming together and learning things about each other, and eventually leading to this evolution of both species, really. But yeah, I think overall, on trying to think of the bigger picture, I think this movie was good. I think it was fun. Obviously, good humor, good characters. I'm excited to see the next movie. To see, I would like to see more of the friends. I think the friends were nice. I think they serve their purpose of this film, but I think next movie they're gonna get more spotlight, hopefully. And yeah, we'll see what this post-dragon friendship world looks like. Because you look at it now and it's like, listen, I'll be honest. Pretty sure I've seen the second movie. I don't remember a lick of what the second movie is about. Just don't know. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. So I'm really trying to think of what a second movie could even be. Dragons were they were the thing. Unless dragons turn on them or something, or there's some other evil group of dragons. Maybe we see another Viking village or something. I don't, I feel like they've won. What else is there? But we will see. That's kind of the point. And yeah, there's really, I don't have anything else. Movie was good. Again, I'm excited to see what the rest of the franchise has to offer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, please go to the Tiger T YouTube channel, go to other podcast services, listen to more episodes of this. I cover a lot of stuff. Obviously there's both Twitters you can go check out. That's for you. Links to everything and anything will be down below. And yeah, is that it? I think that's it. Until next time, go and watch the second movie. I'm sure we'll cover that at some point soon. And let me know what else you want to see me cover.